Hello. So today we are going to talk about one of the variables that leads to a successful marriage. And I say one of because there are many variables that will help you in having a successful marriage. And age, the age at the time of your first marriage, that's one of them, right? So, you could look at statistics, you could look at experiences, anecdotes. Um, there isn't like a magic formula though. It's not like, oh, if you get married at this age, you're for sure gonna stay married and have a great marriage. That would be really nice. I think there's probably a clickbait article you could find out there that would tell you that. But from my perspective, it's a lot more complicated often, and that's not as useful. So if you're looking for that, if you're looking for me to tell you this is the age that you're gonna get married, you're gonna stay married, this is not the video for you. Sorry. But let me talk to you about the three things I see that most often in an individual lead to them having a successful marriage. And you could have these three things at any age, but it's more likely at some ages than not. So one thing is just a little bit of independence, some experience of independence, whether that's going to your own college, living in your own apartment, making a big decision for yourself before entering into a relationship or marriage. A bit of independence, right, is really important to have, from leaving your parents' home to before getting married. So that's one thing, and knowing what you're looking for out of a marriage, right? Now, there's a lot of ways people get this when they're young and developing life. For a lot of folks, it's by dating, by having relationships, even living with people sometimes, where you're like, all right, I'm seeing there's some factors that I really like in this person, but I don't think that they're going to be a marriage material. There's things I am looking for, more so kind of narrowing the target a little bit, right? That's helpful. Couples that or individuals that have religious affiliation or beliefs kind of have a leg up here, because oftentimes your religious belief system is going to give you some ideas about what to expect out of a marriage, and that's helpful. So knowing what you're expecting out of a marriage, knowing what you're wanting out of it, right? That's a huge thing for success. Then third is knowing what you're wanting out of your own life, right? And this is the kind of the biggest one of the time, the one that takes the most time to figure out for people. Usually people will figure this out during their 20s, as they're trying things with their career, trying things in terms of community, where they live, experimenting. It's a normal thing to kind of be doing during that time, and it's really valuable and useful. So knowing who you are and what you want, kind of where you want to go with your life, is a huge thing going into a marriage. So you want to have those three things, right? Some independence, an idea of what you're expecting out of a marriage, an idea of what you're wanting in your own life. Now, as I talk about that, you can kind of probably surmise what might be helpful when it comes to the right age, right? So, it's probably unlikely that an 18-year-old is going to have those three things, right? That's okay. It's probably fair to say, though, but both based on statistics and your experience, my experience, that an 18-year-old is going to have a less successful marriage, more than likely. People do have those experiences, and especially older generations. You might hear more about that from folks that got married, in 50s, 60s, 70s, that worked out. They might have had, were able to have more of those three things back then, earlier in life, possibly, or just the kind of societal expectations have changed. That's a significant thing too. So usually, folks, gain these three things during that period of their 20s. Now, it doesn't mean that, it doesn't have, it could have happened for you at 21 or 22. Could take up to, you're like 29 or pushing 30, right, to have those experiences. The most statistically successful first marriages happen between the ages of 28 and 32, right? So that's the age range that couples are more likely to stay married or not get divorced. Now, that's not getting divorced. That's part of a successful marriage, obviously, but it's not the only thing, right? So we're wanting to look at statistics not as like the rule of everything, but as that is what it says, that that age range is the one that's going to be most likely help you escape divorce. But like I said, those three things you can achieve at kind of any point. But if you're approaching marriage, if you're looking at getting married, I would encourage you to ask yourself that, right? Have I experienced independence? Okay, what could that look like? Do I have an idea of what I'm expecting in a marriage, what I want it to be, right? Or do I just really love this person, right? There's a difference. Then that's important. And do I know what I'm wanting out of my own life, right? And if you have good answers for that, even though those things can change, of course, and we grow and evolve, then it's a good time to get married, right? Whatever the age is. And usually people are going to find they're going to achieve those answers in that period of their 20s, and that's great, right? That's a good thing to do. The kind of average age people get married these days is between 20 and 29, and that's kind of lines up with a little bit of what we're talking about, right? And so wherever you're at in your journey, I would encourage you to think less about age and a little bit more about how you can achieve those three things, right? And in doing so, that'll give you an idea of when the right time will be for you, right, to get married. And there's all sorts of stories you can find, I'm sure, for people who have had success. I would encourage you, though, whenever you look at those successful marriages, to see where you can find those three things: how they had some independence, how they had an idea of what they wanted out of marriage, and what they wanted out of their own life. And usually those people are much more successful getting married. So find the right age for you, but also you can look at the kind of broad truth that people that are getting married these days in their later 20s and early 30s are having a lot of success, right? So take that for what it's worth. Now, as you're kind of trying to figure out these three things, figuring that out with your partner, Launch to Land, the premarital readiness course, is really helpful in kind of giving you some conversations that are going to illuminate where you might be missing some of that stuff, right? And if it's like, hey, I could really use a little more help in understanding who I am or what I'm expecting out of marriage. That's what we talk about a lot in Launch to Land. Then that's a really helpful thing. So head on over to the website and see if that course is the right fit for your relationship right now. And make sure that you like and subscribe here so we can help you take off in the marriage that you want.